It's hard to find two men as different from each other as Russian dictator Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. One has been ruling his country for 22 years, while the other is the new guy in politics and has only been president for 3 years. One of them is a former KGB agent, while the other is a comedy actor and Dancing with the Stars winner. You might think that, in a confrontation, the first one would definitely win, but it seems to be playing out very differently in reality. Putin went from being one of the most powerful men in the world to a terrorist. And in his turn, Zelenskyy is no longer considered a not serious enough leader. Instead, he has become the symbol of his country's resistance. No one expected the former comedian to become such a strong leader. Unlike Putin, who hides far away in his secret bunker, Zelenskyy refuses to leave the city of Kyiv, even though it is under attack. The president of Ukraine knows that he has to be there for his people at this dark hour, and he isn't afraid, even though there have already been several attempts on his life. What's more, he maintains his sense of humor in this challenging period. For example, he recently called out to Putin and asked if they could meet and talk. "Sit down with me to negotiate. Just not at 30 meters. I don't bite." Zelenskyy's joke about 30 meters refers to how the Russian dictator communicates with others. He sits at one end of a notoriously long table, while everyone else sits at the other end. Even when the dictator talks with his closest confidants and friends, he still keeps them at a distance, whether it's because he just wants to be as far away from others as possible, or because he's afraid for his life and doesn't trust anyone around him. This approach doesn't look good on Putin. In fact, Putin doesn't really communicate with his people and only gives pre-recorded talks that don't provide any relevant information. Recently, he even faked his meeting with female representatives of Russian airlines. The video contained computer graphics, and you can clearly see Putin's hand pass through the microphone. Meanwhile, Zelenskyy gives updates about the situation in Ukraine every few hours in front of a very real mic. Red-eyed, unshaven, and exhausted, like all Ukrainians look these days. The president has replaced his suit with an army green t-shirt to look even more like one of his people. And he doesn't just stay inside hiding, he even walks the streets of the city. He also has colleagues, military men, and journalists that he trusts and communicates with directly every day. Recently, he even went to see wounded Ukrainian soldiers in the hospital to cheer them up. Another difference between the two presidents is their attitude toward the digital world. For example, to win the election, Zelenskyy used the power of social media. And when he became president, he successfully started implementing digitalization that included the introduction of electronic documents. Recently, Zelenskyy surpassed Kanye West with his number of followers on Instagram. But in Russia, it looks like the process has gone in the opposite direction. Not only did the government never introduce any digital innovations, but they actually closed a number of websites and resources, including Facebook and Instagram, because they opposed their propaganda. Only state-controlled information sources are now available in Russia. Their media can't even use the word war or invasion to describe the situation in Ukraine, calling it a special operation instead. And that's not the only example where Russia has failed to use a proper term. Putin doesn't call Zelenskyy by his name, but refers to him as the leader of a gang of drug addicts and neo-Nazis, and uses phrases like Kyiv regime instead. Yet the rest of the world can clearly see who of these two takes after the most infamous Nazi in the world. And there's one more, very important difference: the president's family values. Putin divorced his wife of 30 years after having an affair with a much younger woman. And reportedly, he subsequently had many kids with her. Zelenskyy has been married to his wife Olena for almost 20 years. They have 2 kids together, and despite rumors and gossip, they're still happy together and support each other in everything. If you want proof, just take a look at their pre-war Instagram accounts. But lately it seems like Olena isn't the only lady who loves Volodymyr. Countless women all over the world now have a crush on him. A Czech company has even made pillows with his face on. and Legos created Zelenskyy action figures. Meanwhile, Putin's become a global villain and the face of cruelty. New street art in Poland portrays the dictator as Voldemort, while Zelenskyy is painted as Harry Potter. It looks like the Ukrainian president's ability to lead the resistance against the enemy improves every single day. His commitment to Ukraine is unshakable, and his bravery is an inspiration to many. The stark contrast between Zelenskyy and Putin shows us the kind of leader that the modern world needs. It's not a dictator who only knows how to instill fear and use aggressive tactics. It's an approachable, strong, and candid leader who can truly unite his nation. Like President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Glory to Ukraine!